The cameras had just finished flashing, the questions had been asked, and the polite smiles were still plastered on Shu Kai and Tan Songyun's faces when something unusual happened. The press conference for their much-anticipated drama had just ended, yet instead of joining the cast for the scheduled after-party, the two stars seemed to vanish. It was subtle at first. Most of the media assumed they'd simply gone to freshen up backstage. But minutes turned into half an hour, and whispers began circulating among the journalists. Where did Shu Kai and Tan Songyun go? No one had seen them leave through the main entrance, no staff members had spotted them in the dressing rooms, and their managers seemed strangely evasive. The first clue came from a young intern who claimed she saw Shu Kai slip out a side door, holding his phone tightly in one hand, glancing over his shoulder like someone who didn't want to be seen. Tan Songyun was apparently right behind him, wearing a simple black cap pulled low over her face, her hands tucked into an oversized hoodie, a stark contrast to the elegant dress she'd been wearing moments earlier on stage. The intern's account would have been dismissed as gossip if it weren't for what happened next. A paparazzi photographer, who had been stationed outside the venue in hopes of catching celebrity arrivals, caught a blurry image of two figures climbing into a black SUV parked discreetly by the service entrance. The SUV didn't head toward the hotel or the after-party venue. Instead, it sped away in the opposite direction, toward the outskirts of the city. By now, rumors were starting to boil. Fans on social media began speculating wildly. Some believed they had gone to avoid the paparazzi. Others suggested a secret project or even a romantic rendezvous. What no one expected was the level of secrecy that would follow. The SUV's route was anything but direct. It switched lanes multiple times, made unnecessary turns, and even circled back through side streets as if trying to shake off anyone following. The driver, wearing dark sunglasses despite the dim evening light, seemed to know exactly how to lose a tail. Shu Kai and Tan Songyun sat in the back, both staring out of opposite windows, yet their hands, barely visible in the shadows, seemed to brush every so often. About 40 minutes later, the SUV slowed down near an unmarked gate along a narrow road lined with tall bamboo trees. A security camera swiveled toward the vehicle, then the gate opened silently. The car slipped inside and disappeared from view. This location wasn't listed on any fan maps. It wasn't a known celebrity hangout or film set. What lay beyond that gate remained a mystery until an anonymous source came forward. According to this source, the property belonged to an old family friend of Tan Songyun, a man who was known in the industry for keeping secrets. The place was a secluded villa surrounded by acres of private gardens, koi ponds, and cherry blossom trees that had just begun to bloom. It was the perfect hideaway for anyone looking to escape the noise of fame. Inside the villa, Shu Kai reportedly removed his jacket, tossing it casually over a chair, while Tan Songyun kicked off her sneakers and curled up on the couch. The tension from the press conference seemed to melt away instantly. A steaming pot of tea sat on the table, already prepared, as if someone had been expecting them. The source claimed the two spent hours talking in hushed tones, occasionally breaking into bursts of laughter that echoed through the high-ceilinged room. There was a warmth between them, not necessarily romantic, but deeply personal, like two people who had been through something together and were bound by a shared understanding. Meanwhile, the outside world was in chaos. Fans had begun combing through every detail of the press conference footage, looking for clues. They noticed subtle glances between Shu Kai and Tan Songyun, moments when they seemed to exchange silent messages with their eyes. In one freeze frame, Shu Kai was seen leaning slightly toward her during a reporter's question, his lips barely moving as if whispering something only she could hear. Tan Songyun's lips curved into a small smile in response, a smile that now seemed loaded with meaning. The more fans speculated, the more their managers stayed silent. This silence only fueled the frenzy. Around 2 a.m., the black SUV was spotted again, this time leaving the villa. But instead of returning to the city, it drove to a quiet riverbank on the edge of town. Shu Kai and Tan Songyun stepped out, walking side by side under the moonlight. The scene was almost cinematic, the silver light dancing on the water, the wind rustling through the trees, and their silhouettes framed against the vast night sky. A lone fisherman sitting nearby claimed they stayed there for nearly an hour, sometimes talking, sometimes just standing in silence, gazing at the water. At one point, Shu Kai took out his phone, snapped a picture of the moon's reflection, and then showed it to Tan Songyun, who laughed softly. He then pocketed his phone without posting the picture anywhere, a rare move in an age where celebrities document almost everything. By dawn, they were gone again, disappearing into the SUV's tinted windows, leaving no trace behind. The fishermen swore they left as quietly as they arrived, without disturbing the peaceful stillness of the riverbank. Back in the city, speculation was reaching fever pitch. Tabloids ran headlines ranging from secret romance to underground film project revealed. Some even claimed they were scouting locations for a new joint venture, though no proof was offered. It wasn't until 2 days later that a small piece of the puzzle emerged. A fan account posted a grainy shot of Shu Kai and Tan Songyun entering a small art gallery in a different city altogether. The gallery was closed to the public at the time, but the owner later hinted in an interview that the two had come to see a private exhibition of paintings, works by an artist who had been a mutual friend of theirs before his untimely passing last year. The owner described the visit as emotional. "They didn't speak much," he said. "They just looked at the paintings. Sometimes one of them would point at a small detail, and the other would nod. You could tell these works meant something to them. Something personal." Suddenly, the narrative shifted. Fans began piecing together a story of two friends honoring someone they'd lost, escaping the public eye to share a moment that was theirs alone. The villa, the riverbank, the gallery, all of it could have been part of a quiet journey of remembrance. But still, questions lingered. Why the secrecy? Why not just tell the world? Some believed the answer lay in the fact that the entertainment industry can twist even the most innocent moments into scandal. Others thought it was simply their way of protecting something sacred from the chaos of fame. Whatever the truth, one thing was certain: Shu Kai and Tan Songyun's disappearing act had become one of the most talked about mysteries in recent celebrity memory. Even weeks later, fans still revisited every video clip, every blurry photo, every whispered account, hoping to catch a glimpse of the truth hidden between the shadows. And maybe, just maybe, that was the point. In a world where every move is documented, posted, and dissected, the greatest act of all might be the one that leaves people guessing, the act of vanishing, together, into a story only they truly know. The press conference room still buzzed with chatter long after Shu Kai and Tan Songyun had left the stage. Photographers were busy packing up their lenses, journalists were comparing notes, and a few diehard fans lingered by the velvet ropes hoping to catch a last glimpse of their idols. But in the midst of this controlled chaos, no one noticed the subtle shift in the air, the kind of shift that only becomes obvious when it's too late. Behind the stage, the staff corridor was unusually quiet. A narrow hallway led to several dressing rooms, and in the far corner, a small metal door, almost hidden behind a stack of folded backdrop screens, stood slightly ajar. No one ever used that exit. No one, except tonight. Shu Kai was the first to slip through. He moved quickly but without panic, the kind of pace that would look perfectly normal if you weren't paying attention. His outfit from the press conference, a tailored charcoal suit, was now covered by a simple bomber jacket, his hair messily tucked under a dark baseball cap. He kept his head low, avoiding the occasional security guard strolling by. A few seconds later, Tan Songyun emerged from the shadows. She had transformed too. Gone was the elegant gown, replaced by loose-fitting jeans, a plain hoodie, and sneakers. Her hair, which had been perfectly styled minutes earlier, was now tucked beneath a knitted beanie. In the dim light of the corridor, they barely looked like themselves, more like two young strangers leaving an ordinary building. They didn't speak, not yet. Shu Kai gave a small nod toward the door, and she followed. The cool night air hit them as they stepped outside. The faint hum of the city surrounded them, distant traffic, the soft buzz of neon signs, and somewhere far away, the sound of a street musician's guitar. Parked just beyond the loading bay was a black SUV, engine already running. The driver, dressed head to toe in black, kept his gaze forward, as though he wasn't curious about the precious cargo he was about to carry. Shu Kai opened the door for Tan Songyun, and she slid inside without hesitation. He followed, the door shutting softly behind them. The SUV pulled away, turning onto a quiet street instead of the main avenue where paparazzi waited. The tinted windows offered perfect concealment, but both stars still kept their heads down. Outside, The city lights blurred into streaks of gold and red, like paint smeared across a canvas. It wasn't until they'd put several blocks between themselves and the venue that Shu Kai finally spoke. "Do you think anyone saw us?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Not if we did it right," Tan Songyun replied, glancing toward the back window. "Besides, they're all watching the main entrance. No one ever looks for the side door." The driver took a sharp left, then another right, threading them through an unfamiliar part of the city, industrial buildings, narrow alleys, and quiet residential streets where the glow of television screens lit up windows. It felt like they were slipping into another world entirely, one far removed from the flashing cameras and shouted questions of the press. At one point, the SUV slowed at a traffic light. Tan Songyun reached into her hoodie pocket and pulled out her phone, but Shu Kai shook his head. "No calls. No texts. Not yet." She hesitated, then tucked the phone away again. Whatever they were doing tonight, it was clear they had planned it carefully. The streets began to change. The towering glass buildings gave way to smaller shops, hidden cafes, and dimly lit side streets where only the occasional scooter zipped past. The driver made another unexpected turn and suddenly they were on a road lined with tall bamboo trees. The branches swayed gently in the breeze, their shadows dancing on the SUV's windows. Finally, the vehicle slowed near a narrow, unmarked gate. A red security light blinked overhead. The driver pressed a small remote, and the gate swung open without a sound. Inside was darkness and the faint outline of a winding driveway disappearing into a grove of trees. Once the gate closed behind them, the world outside seemed to vanish. No sounds of the city, no hint of streetlights, just the rhythmic crunch of gravel beneath the tires. Then, in the distance, a faint golden glow appeared, the warm light of a villa, its architecture traditional yet timeless, with sloping tiled roofs and wide verandas. The SUV came to a gentle stop. Shu Kai stepped out first, scanning the quiet surroundings before helping Tan Songyun down. She tilted her head back, looking up at the star-filled sky. "It's been a while since I've seen the stars this clearly," she murmured. Shu Kai smiled faintly. "That's the point. No cameras. No noise. Just this." They walked toward the villa, their footsteps soft against the stone path. Somewhere in the distance, a koi pond bubbled softly, and the faint scent of jasmine drifted through the air. Inside, the villa was cozy and warm, low lighting, wooden beams, and the gentle crackle of a fireplace already lit. A teapot sat waiting on the table, steam curling into the air. Beside it, a small plate of mooncakes. "How did you?" Tan Songyun began, but Shu Kai simply shrugged. "Let's just say, I made sure we'd have a place to disappear to." They settled into the couch, the tension in their shoulders easing for the first time all night. Outside, the wind whispered through the bamboo, carrying away the last echoes of the press conference. Here, in this hidden villa, they were no longer Shu Kai and Tan Songyun, the celebrities everyone wanted a piece of. They were just two people who had chosen, for one night, to vanish from the world. But the night was far from over. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe for more jaw-dropping celebrity mysteries and behind-the-scenes stories.